A group of Democratic lawmakers from both the House of Representatives and the Senate has issued a strongly worded letter addressed to the Chief Executive Officer of Palantir Technologies. In the letter, they questioned whether the controversial data analytics company might be violating federal laws by allegedly aiding the Internal Revenue Service in constructing a massive and searchable compilation of taxpayer data. The lawmakers even compared Palantir to American companies in the past that were accused of supporting human rights abuses in authoritarian regimes like apartheid-era South Africa, Nazi Germany, and the People's Republic of China. The letter, spearheaded by Senate Finance Committee member Ron Wyden from Oregon and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York, along with 8 other Democratic signatories, started off with a measured tone. However, it quickly turned more critical. The lawmakers cited concerns that Palantir employees embedded at the Internal Revenue Service were helping the agency utilize Palantir's software to develop what they describe as a centralized and searchable record of taxpayer data. According to the letter, such a system could be made available across various government departments, regardless of whether its use pertains to tax enforcement or administration. These serious allegations originated from a New York Times report published at the end of last month. The report was based on insights from 6 individuals, including government insiders and Palantir staff, who were reportedly familiar with the growing relationship between Palantir and the administration at that time. The article claimed that several federal departments had adopted Palantir's Foundry software platform, which enables various data sources to be combined into a single analytics environment. This platform includes tools powered by artificial intelligence and workflow automation, allowing officials to extract key insights from large volumes of data. Essentially, the platform functions similarly to traditional business intelligence systems, but is applied within the context of government operations. The lawmakers described this centralized data collection as an unprecedented possibility, and warned that it could lead to what they termed a surveillance nightmare. They believe this type of system may violate legal protections found in the tax code, particularly rules safeguarding the confidentiality and disclosure of personal tax information. Violations of these provisions could result in significant financial penalties. The letter pointed out that laws have long served to block political appointees from gaining access to private tax details under previous administrations. It emphasized that even if private tax data is not publicly revealed, the establishment of such a master database might still be in breach of existing statutes. Moreover, the Democratic officials raised additional concerns about potential violations of the Privacy Act of 1974. This legislation outlines strict requirements for how federal agencies collect, store, and disseminate personal information. It mandates public disclosure of how data is used and prohibits interagency data sharing unless certain protocols are followed. The letter warned Palantir that contractors are also subject to many of the law's stipulations, and that Palantir's work with the Internal Revenue Service could place the company and its personnel at legal risk. The concerns extended beyond legality. The Democrats criticized what they see as Palantir's broader ideological and political alignment, characterizing the company as a right-wing technology firm that has allegedly enabled the president's administration to commit widespread violations of federal law. They referenced Palantir's involvement with immigration and customs enforcement in developing tools that expedited deportations under the previous administration's immigration policies. In addition, the letter spotlighted Palantir's $480 million contract with the Department of Defense to support battlefield artificial intelligence through a program called Project Maven. This occurred after another major tech company withdrew from the project due to ethical concerns. The letter also criticized Alex Karp's previous comments during an earnings call, where he stated that Palantir's software would bring violence and death to our enemies, portraying it as a disturbing endorsement of aggressive military action. Karp justified his stance by praising Western values and asserting that the United States remains an exceptional nation. He has reiterated this perspective in multiple public statements, framing it as part of Palantir's mission and philosophy. However, the Democratic lawmakers are wary that this technology might eventually be used against American citizens. Their concern is intensified by past events, including the president's response to anti-immigration and customs enforcement protests in Los Angeles, during which he suggested deploying federal troops against the wishes of California's governor. They warned that Palantir's technology could be misused in domestic surveillance or law enforcement efforts that undermine the rights of United States citizens. Given the gravity of these allegations, the lawmakers demanded that Alex Karp provide detailed responses to several questions. These included a comprehensive list of Palantir's active government contracts, whether the company had received legal immunity assurances from the federal government, whether the company had a firm policy against enabling human rights abuses, and if Palantir had ever declined any requests from the previous administration due to concerns over potential misuse of its technology. They requested these answers by the 10th of July. The legislators openly admitted that they had no definitive proof that the so-called mega database currently exists. Their concerns are primarily based on the aforementioned report by the New York Times. Earlier, a separate report had addressed similar fears. That report focused on an Internal Revenue Service event described as a hackathon, reportedly conducted with guidance from the Department of Government Efficiency and support from Palantir. Although that investigation did not mention a centralized database, it did describe the development of a so-called mega application programming interface. A spokesperson from the Department of the Treasury, which oversees the Internal Revenue Service, later confirmed that the application programming interface system was being developed, but clarified that it was not a new initiative. According to that spokesperson, the Internal Revenue Service has been attempting for over 2 decades to link various disconnected systems through an application programming interface platform, a project that has already cost around $4 billion. The stated purpose of this effort is not to compile all government data into a single repository, but rather to reduce redundancy and make tax-related tasks simpler for citizens. The spokesperson acknowledged Palantir's involvement with the Internal Revenue Service, explaining that the firm's role involved improving procurement systems. The company's software had previously been cleared for government use through the Federal Risk and Authorization Management Program. Most of the workload on this particular project is being carried out by Internal Revenue Service staff, with Palantir's contractors supporting where needed. The same New York Times article that led to the recent letter asserted that Palantir's responsibilities at the Department of the Treasury have expanded. There were claims that Palantir may be negotiating a long-term contract with the Internal Revenue Service, though the article did not provide evidence that Palantir is helping to create a centralized government-wide data hub. While no confirmation exists regarding the construction of the alleged mega database, it is worth noting that the president did issue a directive in March ordering federal agencies to dismantle information silos to improve efficiency and reduce misuse of taxpayer money. This directive could plausibly explain why Palantir was brought on board. When directly asked if Palantir had been commissioned to build a national data system, a spokesperson for the White House offered a vague response. They reiterated that the executive order aimed to streamline data collection across federal agencies for the sake of efficiency without providing any further specifics. On the other hand, a Treasury spokesperson reiterated that Palantir's assignment at the Internal Revenue Service remains limited to improving procurement systems and helping integrate fragmented application programming interface systems. The department confirmed that 10 such interfaces exist and are currently difficult to navigate in their disjointed state. Treasury officials emphasized that Palantir is not violating any laws through its application programming interface work with the Internal Revenue Service. They clarified that the integration efforts being pursued have no bearing on federal data privacy regulations, tax confidentiality rules, or any statutes related to data protection. Following the intense scrutiny from a group of Democratic lawmakers, Palantir has now responded directly to the allegations raised in their recent letter. The company issued a statement firmly pushing back against what it called misinformation stemming from a speculative news story. According to Palantir, the concerns brought up by Democratic members of Congress were fueled by an inaccurate article published by the New York Times. The statement criticized lawmakers for drawing extreme comparisons between Palantir's work and the actions of companies that historically aided authoritarian regimes, including those complicit in human rights abuses during apartheid in South Africa and under the Nazi government in Germany. Palantir emphasized its long-standing role in supporting United States national security and public health efforts. The company highlighted that its platforms are currently being used by thousands of American military personnel to safeguard the country and its allies, particularly in regions experiencing conflict such as the Middle East. Additionally, Palantir pointed out that its technology is actively helping hospitals make critical, life-saving decisions, and it is playing a role in combating the ongoing measles outbreak through its collaboration with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In the statement, Palantir explicitly denied creating any sort of centralized database of taxpayer records. The company stressed that it is not involved in nor facilitating any large-scale surveillance efforts targeting citizens of the United States. Palantir called the repeated accusations false and insisted that reiterating these claims will not change their inaccuracy. Furthermore, Palantir underscored its consistent commitment to serving the United States, regardless of which political party holds office. The company reminded the public that it has been working closely with the federal government for nearly 2 decades, suggesting that its mission is rooted in supporting the nation as a whole, not in serving any partisan interests. This strong rebuttal from Palantir marks a pivotal moment in the ongoing controversy. Whether this response will satisfy critics in Congress or lead to further investigation remains to be seen. What is clear, however, is that Palantir is drawing a firm line in defense of its operations and reputation amid growing political and media attention. For more stock news updates, remember to press the like button and subscribe. With that being said, I will see you in the next video.